if I bought here or anywhere here, I would either take profit here, or maybe even if I missed this and I didn't buy here, I would be shorting here and then taking it to the first band, let's say. This is an opportunity for me to fade this move, to go long, to buy here, and then take it to the upside. And this is going to be a take profit point. Once the price comes up from below to VWAP, this is the place for me to short or sell, and then that's a nice area to go long or to buy. Alright, welcome to my educational video on VWAP. VWAP is the volume weighted average price, and the difference between that and moving average is that moving average is calculated using candle closes only. Thus, it's just including price in its calculations, whereas VWAP is also accounting for volume in its calculations. Therefore, I personally think that VWAP is a little bit more accurate. For me, it's a better indicator than a moving average. Not slandering on moving averages, they can of course be useful, but in my opinion, VWAP is just superior. And as you can see, I have the weekly VWAP on the NQ. Based on my experience, VWAP is a very, very reliable tool for myself and my trading strategy, so wanted to make a video to talk about it a little bit more. Now, while I think VWAP on its own is great, I think it can be even better with this, the standard deviation bands. And what these are is just basically you add the standard deviation bands. You can set, this is an indicator by someone called SBTC, which I found some time ago. You can find it on TradingView. It's free and it's public, so go ahead and add it if you want to give it a go. I usually go for any intraday trades or even overnight holds. I just usually go for 1 week, and then standard deviations are going to be 1, and then the next 2 are going to be 1.5, and then 2, 2.5, and 3. These are not necessarily the best out there. These are just something I figured myself that they're comfortable for me. I like working with these. You can obviously set these to whatever you want. Let's say you want to start with 2 and then 3 and then 4, 5, 6, whatever. Figure it out yourself, what you like most, what you're comfortable with, what works for you, and then go for it. The purpose of the bands for me is that they show if the asset is a little bit overextended to the upside or if it's overextended to the downside, just like here. And again, you can color these any way you want to. If you want to make these red and then these green, that's fine. You can change that and you go into style and then you choose the color. My first approach for using VWAP is for mean reversion trades. And by these, I mean that I wait for the price to be overextended to the downside. So once it reaches maybe just a little bit below the second line right here, as you can see right in here, once that happens, I look for some kind of confluence. I look at the bigger picture. I'm trying to see if there is a support level here that would make me interested in going long here and buying, or maybe if there is something else indicating that this is a good area to buy. I don't just blindly buy just because it's overextended to the downside, hence it's sort of, people say oversold. I don't really like that term, so I just say overextended to the downside because it can always get even more overextended. So just because it gets here, just because it's below this line right here, doesn't mean that it cannot just keep going down. It can even exit the bands themselves and keep going down. I've seen that happen as well. So always have another indicator or support level, resistance level, whatever, helping you out, supporting with your idea of going long or short. So in this case, once it's overextended to the downside, and if provided that there is a strong support level, this is a good place for me personally to go long, to buy, to analyze and see if I'm interested in even buying here. And then VWAP itself, the orange line, for me, it's going to serve as the take profit. And of course, it can push through and go higher and then get overextended to the upside. Well, then I would use this in a similar fashion, right? I would say that it's overextended to the downside. Let's say for this particular asset, the NQ, anything that's above the second line or below the second line on the downside, for me is a signal to fade, provided that there is also some kind of a resistance here. Then I would sell or short around here, right above the second line, and then take it here, and then here at the VWAP itself, I would be looking for take profits. So the idea of mean reversion trades with VWAP bands is that you essentially go long somewhere here, you take profit at the VWAP, and vice versa. you go short around here, and then you take it to VWAP as well, and you take profit here. That's my approach. And then obviously I'm only doing that once I understand that we are in a ranging environment. So usually the way to understand if we're ranging or trending is that when the bands are taking on this kind of shape, that means we're trending. So I wouldn't be looking for mean reversion traits in this kind of environment. And then once the bands are flat or more or less flat, right, then I would think that we are back to mean reversion environment. So I would be fading personally anything above here. Again, doesn't necessarily have to be the second line. It could always be the first line or the last line. It's all very, very individual. It's unique to your own strategy. It's unique to my strategy. Everyone has to figure out what works for them. I could also be using VWAP as a dynamic support and resistance level itself. I've already talked about it. So basically what happens once it was overextended and it's coming down to VWAP, I would look at it as a support and buy around here and then take it to the first one. And then same thing with if the price is coming up from the lower bands into VWAP, I can use that as a dynamic resistance with buying around lower bands and then selling around upper bands. I always make sure that there is an actual resistance level, not just VWAP itself, but reading the price action, understanding the context, seeing the bigger picture. If there is a resistance and I like this level and I think it could be a meaningful resistance and there is also a VWAP, well, that's just confluence for me to sell here. So if I bought here or anywhere here, I would either take profit here, or maybe even if I miss this and I didn't buy here, I would be shorting here and then taking it to the first band, let's say. And here I would take profit from this short right here. So that's that for my mean reversion strategy. Here is a perfect illustration of what I meant earlier. Once the price is out of the bands, and I see that we're in a ranging environment because the bands are flat now, this is an opportunity for me to fade this move, to go long, to buy here, and then take it to the upside. And this is going to be a take profit point for me, the VWAP itself. Same with the mean reversion strategies. When fading the upside, I would wait for the price to reach the upper bands, and once they're at a significant resistance level, then I would fade this, I would go short, and then first take profit is always the VWAP itself. And if I want to be a little bit more ambitious, then the other take profit would be the first of the opposing bands. So if I entered the trade in the upper bands, then the first opposing band would obviously be the first lower band. And then same here, once the price is in the upper bands and I think there is a strong resistance level, then I would go short, first take profit at the VWAP itself. And then if I'm feeling good about my trade, then I could potentially hold it to the first lower band right here and take profit at the first band here. And this right here is an example of why I said it's always important to understand the context, to see the bigger picture, to look for the confluence with the support or resistance levels, because in this case, the price is out of the bands, out of the lower bands. So you would think, oh, it's overextended to the downside, obviously time to fade. And then as you see, the price just keeps on going lower and lower and lower. And every time it's out of the lower bands, well, not here, but and here as well, and then right here at the close. So do understand that once the bands go diagonal, or once they're tilted, that means once they're expanding, that means that we are entering a strong trend move, and the mean reversion strategies are no longer viable and not effective. And then again, always watch for support or resistance levels kind of as a support for your own trade idea. So don't just immediately buy or long just because you saw the price exiting the lower bands. And same with the upper bands. If the price is out of the bands, I would not look at it as an immediate call for me to short. I would first establish if we're flat, that means we're a ranging environment, then I do like the idea of fading the this upside move that went above the upper bands. I do like that idea better in that scenario. And then also if there is a strong resistance level here, then that also supports my trade idea to go short here and then take it to either first bands here or take profit at the VWAP. Now, VWAP can also be used for trend following strategies. I personally use it for both mean reversion trend following, and in trend following, once I understand that we are in a downtrend, I would use any meaningful bounces to VWAP to fade, so short or sell here. Once the price comes up from below to VWAP, this is the place for me to short or sell. And then in this case it didn't, but if it would come here again, this is another place for me to short or to sell following the trend. Another example is using it in an uptrend. Once I've established that we're in an uptrend, then any meaningful pullback to VWAP would be an opportunity for me to buy, to go long, and just go along with the trends. Now, sometimes I would take profit at the first resistance, just like here. Sometimes I would take it to maybe the second line or the third band even. Usually I don't try to keep it all the way to the third band, whether to the downside or to the upside. Usually I prefer to use those as a mean reversion opportunities, because more often than not, once the price is out of the third band, for me personally, anywhere here or anywhere here, that's an opportunity to go long right here and then go short from above. You can also use anchored VWAP. You would go to drawing tools and then here, right here with projections, volume-based anchored VWAP. And for this strategy, I personally look at any meaningful highs or lows, and I use that as an inflection point for the anchored VWAP, and it essentially shows me the trend, and then I can use it as a dynamic support and resistance right here as a fade, as a take profit, or maybe short from here. This one, it went above, then use this as a bounce to go long. This is where I either take profit if I shorted, or it invalidates my entry right here. And then here we can see that VWAP acted as a meaningful resistance, was a good place personally for me to enter shorts right here. Same can be done with the meaningful any significant lows. So I go here, anchored VWAP, and I just choose this. And then I can use VWAP as a support right here to go long for mean reversion. Go long here as well. And then just like with my support and resistance levels, the way I look at dynamic support and resistance by VWAP, the first touch almost always works for me as a fade. The second touch also works, and then the third one, I don't risk it. There is a significant chance that the level is going to be broken, just like here. You can use VWAP as a tool for scalping, for intraday, for high time frame trades. So for scalping, I personally use daily VWAP, and then for anything that's short-term swings, weekly or maybe even monthly. And then for high time frame trades, I would use quarterly or annual. One thing that I would like to add is that if I'm using weekly VWAP, then for Monday, which is the first day, I would not look at the VWAP. I would let it develop and kind of gather data before using it for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. And then similarly, if I'm using monthly VWAP, I would wait for at least the first week to then start using the monthly one. And then same with the yearly VWAP, I would wait for at least a month or so before actually using it. And then if you're using daily VWAP, I would wait for the first hour and then I would use it after that. And then one more thing that I wanted to mention is that you can also use the previous closes of the VWAP. Let's say if I'm using weekly right here and it closed right here, I can use that as a support and resistance level in the future. See, we have a VWAP closing right here. Don't count this as a close. This is where it closed. And then essentially in the future, that is used as a resistance level and provides a nice opportunity for a short. Same idea here. We have a weekly close right here before it goes vertical. This is the close. So if I add this as a support level, I can see that we get a meaningful bounce sometime in the future, and then that's a nice area to go long or to buy. So always watch out for previous weekly closes, daily closes, monthly closes, depending on what time frame you are trading on, whether it's any of the previous weeks, previous days, previous months. I would personally take that into account. Essentially, best way to use VWAP would be in confluence with price action, with support and resistance levels, and then volume profile maybe, or any other indicators. I would just make sure to not use like 10 indicators, and too many indicators is never good. Maybe 2 or 3 or 4 would be enough. I personally only use 2 or 3 indicators. I don't count price action, support and resistance. That's my foundation. And then I would add volume profile or VWAP as the 2 indicators to use. Anything over 3 or 4 creates a lot of noise, and then it's harder to make decisions. So what's my take on VWAP and using VWAP with standard deviation bands? I think VWAP bands is an excellent indicator. It can be useful in a training environment. It can be useful in a ranging environment as well. It's relatively reliable for me. There is a lack of noise, there is lack of false signals if used wisely, if used while understanding the context, while seeing the bigger picture, while using other indicators that work for you. It's also easy to use, it's not overly complicated, and it's very, very easy to learn. And it's just a very accessible indicator that does great work for me. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you learned how to use VWAP and VWAP bands in this video, and I hope it helps you with your trading. If you like the video, please make sure to subscribe. There are more educational videos coming soon. I'm going to be talking about different indicators that I use, and I will be also covering the indicators that I don't use, but I think could still be useful for some traders out there.